Hello, welcome back. My name is Erica, and I am the person behind the Lopsided Crafter brand. A little admin stuff before we get started. You can follow me on all the socials as either the Lopsided Crafter or Lopsided Crafter. Some places the wasn't available. We also have a new blog, so you can follow us over there, which is www.lopsidedcrafter.com. It is a work in progress. Right now we only have one loom knitting pattern on the website, but there are a few blog posts. So if that interests you, jump on over there, see what's going on. I probably will have more content over there that will be linked to the YouTube channel, but definitely more stuff going on over there in the future, like crochet alongs, knit alongs, loom alongs, and that kind of thing. So now let's get to why you are here. I'm going to start off by saying this is not a sponsored video. This is my own unbiased opinion, and I did purchase this loom with my own money. So now let's go to the craft table, and I will give you my honest review of the new to me, Flexee loom, the bitty size. Okay. So, a couple months ago, KB Looms came out with another loom, another Flexee loom. And this is in the bitty size. They have different sizes: bitty, regular, chunky, and skinny. So, the bitty size is a 1/4 of an inch gauge. And what that means in the loom knitting world is it is a 1/4 of an inch from the center of one peg to the center of another peg. So that's the gauge of the loom, which would be translated into a needle size. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the gauge you are going to get when you knit on the loom. So I'll go over this a little bit later in this video. But when buying a loom, you want to look for the gauge of the loom, and that means from center of peg to center of peg. And let's just talk about the loom itself first, and then we will come back. So when you get it, it comes in this nice little, cute little box. And these are relatively inexpensive, $14.99 to $16.99, depending on the size and where you get them. They have them on KB Loom's website, which is authenticknittingboard.com, as well as Amazon. It comes with this little booklet with all the information about the loom. There are 72 fine gauge links. And so each one of these little pieces right here is considered a link. So there's 72 of these links in this package, which creates 148 pegs, respectively. So it's got a little book here that shows you about putting it together. All of their looms come with this easy knitting technique instructions, especially if you're new to loom knitting. It goes over the basics. Usually has 1 or 2 patterns, and then information about their website and things like that. All of their looms also come with a knitting loom hook. I prefer to use different ones. I've got this one from Cindy Wood Crafts, and then I have some of KB Loom's thicker ergonomic hooks. I just don't care for these because they're too small for my arthritic hands. So the concept behind these looms is that you can put them together in any kind of figuration and work your project. And then if you need to decrease in a certain area, you pop that apart, take out that link once you've moved your stitches around, of course, and then you pop that back in, and now your loom is 2 pegs shorter. So the concept behind these looms is ingenious. Definitely, like I said, gives you the opportunity to increase and decrease easier. If you're familiar with loom knitting, you know that it can be kind of cumbersome to increase and decrease on a loom. So that idea is perfect. I have been using the other sizes, and if you would like to know more about those, I go a little bit more in depth on my blog post, but this would be the skinny one, which is a small gauge yarn loom. It does not say on here what the gauge is, so it actually have to either look it up or measure it, but that's easy to do. Again, you can find more information about those looms on my most recent blog post. So now we're going to go back and we're going to talk about gauge. So I did this small little gauge swatch here last night. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer. And I did that on this loom, this 1/4 inch loom. So if you look at this swatch, my swatch measures 9 stitches per inch and 13 rows per inch. So I measured my whole swatch. You lay it down. Normally you would do 4 inches by 4 inches and block it. I think with the knitting loom that 2 inches by 2 inches is okay. In my opinion, you would measure your stitches across and your rows up. Divide that by how big your swatch is. So if it's 2 by 2, then you divide those number by 2. If it's 4 by 4, you divide it by 4, and so on. So if you look at this loom being 1/4 inch gauge, that actually falls into a fine gauge loom with an average of 5 to 7 stitches per inch. And I'm getting 9. Now, again, that has to do with tension, the type of stitch you're using, that kind of thing. The reason why I'm going over this is because of getting a smaller gauge than you normally would with this particular loom is going to make me look at my sizing. It's also going to make me look at how many rows and that kind of thing. So with my gauge at 9 stitches per inch, the industry standards are that I should be using a knitting needle equivalent would be a US 1 2.25, which just happens to be exactly what I use when I am knitting socks by hand. So what that tells me personally is that I could use this loom as long as my stitch tension is the same. I can use this loom for any sock knitted pattern that calls for that particular gauge. I have written quite a few needle sock patterns. So I am going to actually be doing one of those on my loom, and I am going to test that theory, and that will come up in a future video as well as a blog post. So again, when we're talking about the gauge of the loom being 1/4 inch, that is the gauge between center of peg to center of peg. That's not the gauge that you get when you actually create your fabric. You still want to measure this out to make sure that you are getting the size that you want, especially if it is some type of garment or even a blanket. The last thing you want to do is purchase your yarn, get to working on your project, only to find out you don't have enough. So let's head back to our main table, and I will give you my final thoughts and opinions on this loom. Okay, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little display of the loom and my thought process behind the gauge. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the loom itself. One of the things that I really like about this loom is that they are color coded loosely. You have 2 different colors. You have, especially with this one, well, all of them, but with this one, you have your darker teal and your lighter teal. One thing I really like about that is that you can actually change those links around. So if you were working, say, on a sock pattern that was 2x2 rib, then you could actually change those links around and make a note on your pattern of which link was which, and then you don't have to use stitch markers. So say these are my knits and these are my pearls, and you just use one of each color all the way around to mark out your pattern. Now, the downside to that is if you are following a completely rib pattern, start increasing and decreasing, that sequence is going to kind of mess itself up. So you'll want to make a note later when you get to that point. And so you don't mess your stitches up, your sequence. But that's one good thing. Another good thing with these is you are not limited to the one box, the one set of how many ever pegs comes in that box. You can order multiple boxes and make your loom as big or as small as you like. It bends, hence the name Flexee, so that if you are increasing or decreasing, especially when it comes to doing cable work on the loom, moving the loom so that you can get those stitches and move them easier, that's a great thing. It also works with portability. How many times have you tried to work on a project and the loom is just so big and cumbersome that you just don't want to take it with you? Well, if you have one of these, no matter how many pegs you have, you just fold that bad boy up as many times as it will fold up, pop it in your bag, and off you go. So, as far as that and that concept, it is fantastic. If you've watched like I said before, if you've watched my review on the other sizes, I was kind of concerned when they first came out a couple years ago with arthritic hands that I would not be able to move the pegs in and out very easily. Because in the beginning, they're a little bit harder to maneuver, taking them in and out when you first get them. Well, and that's just because they haven't been worked. The more you work with this loom, the easier it is to get those apart, but it still stays durable. So would I suggest this loom for anybody to purchase, for you to purchase? Absolutely. I surely would. So I am going to give this I'm going to give this 5 loom hooks. So if you would like to follow me and my crafty adventures as I convert one of my own needle patterns to this loom, my enchanted heel pattern, if anybody's interested in that, because I do not like to pick up stitches. I don't like picking up stitches for a heel turn at all. So I designed a needle pattern that eliminates that. And since this is Flexee and we can add more links, I am going to convert that pattern over to the loom. It is going to take some rewriting, especially for the heel part, because you do turn back and forth working on the right side and the wrong side. So I'll have to convert that all to the right side. But all that to say, if you want to follow my adventures on doing that, make sure you're following me over on Instagram and my website for all of that information. Both of those are linked below in the description box. I am very excited about these, and we'll just see what happens next. I've got all kinds of ideas floating through my head for patterns for these looms, because I'm tired of us loom knitters being stuck to only a certain kind of pattern, and these open up the possibilities for so much. Shawls that are made the correct way and not sideways, sweaters. Oh, the possibilities are endless. So make sure you stay tuned to this channel for all of that. Like I said, I've got some crochet alongs coming up in the future as well. We are going to be doing some Tunisian stitches and all kinds of things like that. I've got a new set of Tunisian hooks that I will be doing a review on in the near future. So until next time, stay crafty, happy loom knitting. Bye. I am. 5 loom hooks are the biggest, the strongest, the wildest, the best. We're going to cut that out because that was just horrible. What's the word I'm looking for? And my website, the Lopsided. No, it's not the Lopsided. Cut. I got a new set of Tunisian hooks that I will be doing an interview. No, I won't be doing an interview. Until next time, stay crafty. Happy loom knitting. Bye.